everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Soul Call with Kelly B. I'm your host, Kelly Butchert, and I am so pleased that you're joining me for this magical conversation with this incredible soul today, Dianne Pegler. Dianne, you sent me through the most incredible bio I think I've ever read. And so rather than me sharing this bio, I think a lot of it we will talk about in our conversation today anyway. So what I'm just going to start by saying is that Dianne has written this incredible book called The Sacred Order of the Magi. And I have this book, and I was saying to Dianne before I press record today that it's disappeared in my home somewhere. It's hiding. So I'm hoping it makes a reappearance very soon. So I'm trusting that it will. But you have had the most incredible journey to get to this point where you're writing in such an honourable way this beautiful book, Dianne. And it's been made into a movie as well. And you were sharing with me before I press record that you're now also writing another book about the journey of writing this book and the people that have come into your life, the experiences as well. So there is so much that I want to cram into this conversation because I know that everybody's going to love you instantly. You're just the most beautiful, incredible soul that's had the most incredible lived experience as well. And it's certainly not over. There's so much more to come. So, Dianne, would you just quickly introduce yourself, tell us where you are, and just a little bit more about what you do, and then we'll get into this incredible journey.
Oh, what do I do? I began my spiritual path in 1996, a long time ago, when I was working in a London office on a temporary contract. I met a girl who was also on a temporary contract, and she was a practicing Buddhist. She was a member of the Soka Gakkai, Japanese version of Buddhism. Tina Turner is made famous.
Yeah.
And her conversation and what she used to speak about was just a totally different realm to anything I'd ever experienced before. I found her absolutely fascinating. And, it wasn't that life wasn't, bad. It wasn't. It just felt that there was a bit more that perhaps I could be experiencing, particularly having met Carol. And I think now that obviously the universe brought her to me. And she said to me one day, after we'd had one of our lunchtime conversations, try chanting for 100 days, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And she said, that's what we say to people. And that 100 days, just changed my life. I remember the first evening saying to my husband, I'm just going upstairs to chant now. He was reading the paper with one eye on the television, and he said, okay. And off I went. And as I say, that was the beginning of my path, but it was obviously meant to be. And within a year, 1997, I had completed a certificate in counselling. I had trained as a Louise Hay teacher trainer. When I got to that course, I was like a rabbit caught in the headlights, but I was there. And that was in June 1997. At the end of that week, which was life-changing, we had to declare our intentions, what we would do going forward. And I was just so passionate about introducing Louise Hay's, tools, life's tools of personal development, self-esteem to children. And in the August, which is what I did, in the August, the last day of August 1997, was the day that Princess Diana died. So there was this whole, the whole of that year was just amazing and sort of intense energies. I then ran adult classes at a local education authority in the evening, teaching Louise Hay's Heal Your Life, Mind, Body, Spirit as one. And in the October of that year, I flew to California to meet Louise and played this treasure hunt board game that I'd designed for children. And it was the week of her 72nd birthday. And she invited her and me and my dear friend who'd helped me at the time with we called it Hay for Kids, Hay for kids. And we sat on Louise Hay's bed watching these videos of children playing the exercises that we created for this children's program. And yeah, that was the following year after beginning chanting. So I was passionate about that program, and very, very nearly did we succeed, but there was government funding and EU funding involved, and that dried up, and had to call that a cease. And then I followed the angelic path. The angels were my salvation at the time, because I was so desperately upset about not being able to deliver Hay for Kids. But it's all part of the bigger picture of me developing myself, really. And I perhaps would have been not the person that I should have been, if I'd have gone into Hay for Kids too soon.
So just in the first 5 minutes of this podcast conversation, we've established that you're the author of this incredible book, The Sacred Order of the Magi. It's going to be made into what will be a blockbuster movie. And we'll come to talk more about that book.
It's set in the present day,
But going back, as you say, to where your spiritual journey began, a chance meeting, or divine orchestration, as we know, how this works. With meeting someone who recommended that you start this 100 days of chanting that beautiful mantra, which is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Is that close enough?
It is, yeah. Nam is the the shortened version of the Sanskrit greeting namaste, but it's obviously from a Japanese perspective. So it's greeting the sacredness in the universe and asking that to come to you. Myoho is the it's about the the greeting of the unfolding yourself to be like the lotus flower. The lotus flower has its seeds and blossoms in the murkiest of waters, so you too can do the same. And then Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, it's about your voice being heard in the universe and bringing the manifestations. I mean, Carol spoke about manifesting and law of attraction. I mean, I'd never heard of any of these things, and they called this the miracle chant, and it just seemed, I don't know, a new way. And it was a lovely chant as well, it just something so different.
We'll all be doing it now. We'll all be doing it. I'm certainly going to be doing it for sure. And then how quickly that shifted your life and elevated your life in so many ways to discover somebody as, I mean, Louise Hay. I mean, is there anybody on the planet that hasn't heard of Louise Hay? God rest her soul. But Hay House are massive, aren't they? And there's all these kind of tributary publications, publishing houses off of Hay House now as well. And for you then to tap into your creatress power to bring forward something for children as well. So,
And Kelly, what I think about all of this is that I was so naive in so many respects, so prepared just to go and explore all of this because it had never been my path before. that I want to say that to everybody else. You know, these opportunities are here if you just listen to what guides you, and particularly at this time, you know, we need so many more light workers to elevate us into this beautiful age of Aquarius. And that's what I have realized, that all of our paths and our light workers who are alive now, we signed up to be here now. So we need to. So I just say, if I can do it, anybody else could do it.
Oh, you have, and you've done so much, Dianne. And, you know, I want to first of all give so much credit to our mutual friend, Emily Teague, who put us in touch with each other, because she just adores you, and I can see why. You know, she's just a beautiful soul, and she connects people so beautifully as well. And Emily appeared on my podcast a few months back as well. So for anybody that hasn't listened to that episode, please go back and listen to it. But what I love about Emily is she's got this, of course, we're not all bubbly all the time, but she has this effervescent, beautiful energy where she's just so pure of heart. She just wants everybody that's, you know, feels similarly to her to make humanity, to help humanity to elevate to higher states of consciousness, to raise the frequency on the planet. She just cares so deeply about connecting the right people to get the messages out there. And it all comes from this selfless place of pure love. And so I want to thank her for that. But her energy is the same. It's like this boundless, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you mentioned naivety. I think of it as like childlike joy and wonder, where we start to tap into that inner child again, where we're wanting to explore, we want to ask the deeper questions, we want to find out more. We're in that quantum field of, let's find out. I want to know more. This feels good. I'm going to follow this. And I truly believe that, you know, the leaders that we need on the planet now are those people like yourself, like Emily, like myself. And there are many people on the planet who are in that zone of follow your joy, follow where your heart is pulling you. Now, I don't know if you know this, Dianne, but I worked in education for 22 years. I was a teacher.
I did see
And and latterly as a head teacher. And now I'm a teacher of the heart. I say that, I think, in every podcast episode because I want to really drive home the importance of leading from the heart so that we follow that star. Yeah, we follow this portal that's within us. So you mentioned there that you then went on a pathway of working with angels and opening up your world with that childlike wonder of the angelic realms. I would love for you to share a little bit more about what that part of your journey opened up for you and what you explored and learned.
Strange to say, when I was teaching adult classes, because when I went along for the open evening, I'd made this arrangements with the organisers there, and I remember them saying, "This is so new that if nobody enlists tonight, you know, please don't be disappointed, but we won't be running your courses." So I said, "No, that's fine." I mean, when I arrived on the training course in Birmingham with Louise's appointee, Patricia Crane, I'd read 2 books. I'd read 2 books, did this certificate in counselling. And when I got there, everybody else was so qualified. So when it came, I'd already booked this open evening to speak to people at the adult education class. And I was just, again, so buoyed up with sharing this. But I thought, well, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. You know, I'll just carry on my own path. But I was inundated, so much so that they did arrange the course that evening and even had a waiting list for the January course. But during that time with those ladies, I had discovered this amazing book by Nick Bunnick called The Messengers, and it was about angels appearing to him to get him to introduce himself out to the world further. But anyway, I spoke about angels to my class, and they arranged for me to run some angel workshops with them. So that was the start of my path with the angels. And I remember the first evening we sat together, and I was just sort of finding my way as well with the angels. We sat in a circle, and I led them all in a meditation, and I asked them to, meet their guardian angel and ask the name of their guardian angel. And when I asked them all afterwards if they received a name, they'd all received a name. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But when we put the chairs away, obviously to clear the room, there was one beautiful white feather that had been left by one of the chairs. And it certainly wasn't there because we thought, because we set the chairs out. But from then I did angel therapy with Doreen Virtue. I did lots of angel days in London with Doreen Virtue and Diana Cooper. And I also trained in Angelic Reiki with Kevin Core in Yorkshire, and I was the first person, as I said to you earlier, to travel from the south to Yorkshire to be with Kevin. Again, just, I don't know, things came my way and I did them.
Was placed in your path. But we always have divine will, don't we, Dianne? Because even though things are placed in our path, this is a point that I want people to remember this point too in this conversation, that the divine will drop things in our path, but we always have divine will to choose. So
yes.
Isn't it amazing how, as everybody will hear as we go through this conversation, that when we step in and we follow our heart and we say yes rather than no, or I'm going to defer, or when you're in that pathway of faith and trust in your heart, it just opens up more and more and more. And it's going back to that unfolding of the lotus and that beautiful mantra that you spoke about. We're just revealing more and more and more of our heart. We're allowing that lotus to really flower and blossom. So I am loving this. And before we press record today as well, I said, oh, I've got Angelic Reiki in common too. And I'll share very briefly with the viewers and the listeners that when I trained in Angelic Reiki in 2012, that was so heart-opening for me, and just things were happening, visualizations that I was having that I couldn't explain, and that I'd never, ever perceived anything like it before. And one of the beautiful things that I experienced was, just mind-blowing. I was inside a temple looking up at the cosmos, and these incredible white lion beings came in and around me as I was lying on this crystalline bed. And when I got up off the bed, they knelt down in honor of me. And I'm going, what's going on? What's going on? It was just so beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And now I know the gnosis within me. I know that these were Merlin beings. They were from Lyra. And it was one of the most incredibly beautiful things. And when I shared it with my Angelic Reiki tutor, she said, oh my goodness, Kelly, have you heard of the white lion prophecy? Which I hadn't, which, of course, when I got home, I looked up and I found out about the white lion prophecy and how they have returned to Timbavati. And what the prophecy states is that when the white lions return, that's when the Christ consciousness is back to a certain frequency on the planet. And of course, this was in 2012, which was a really pivotal year as well, which I didn't know any of that at the time.
No.
So when we truly are in alignment with following our heart, that inner star within us, That is our true north, and we should always trust that. Even if the mind can't cognize it and can't make sense of it, it's trust, 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 because it leads you to the most beautiful places, the most beautiful places. So I just,
And the most beautiful people as well.
oh, totally.
There's a group, I believe, called the Mission Weavers, and they bring us these situations, people, events, to move us on our path. But it is, I think, very humbling and childlike, as you say. It's just to follow, just to be. I suppose, what I think about my path is an example to other people. Not that I ever set out to be an example, but it is. When I look back, I think, oh my goodness, did I really do that? So everybody can, and we need the lights, the Christ light, the diamond light, the dragons, we need that now. But
We do.
it was the angels that saved my sanity after Hay for Kids. The funding was just not there.
Yeah, yeah,
It was that angelic path.
yeah. Oh my goodness, I love that. And I love the fact that they left a little calling card, their white feather as well, just to
Oh
give you
God.
confirmation as well, and the others. It's so beautiful when it happens like that. You can't explain it.
It was just so beautiful and confirming, and I've never forgotten it. It was,
Yeah,
a long time ago
yeah.
now, and those are the things we just don't forget.
No,
They're just
don't.
affirming for us that we
Yeah,
are on the right path. They are there with us.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, you also went on to become attuned in Rahani celestial healing. And
I did, yeah.
something that I hadn't heard of either was Zimbati planetary healing. Can you share
No.
just a little bit about those and how those influenced your life and then the path that then unfolded thereafter as well?
Carol Stacey, who founded Rahani Healing, is a very good friend of mine. But I didn't know that at the time. And she lives quite locally to me, about an hour's drive in Essex. And she's the most incredible person. I'm always in awe when I'm in Carol's presence, because she's just such a dedicated tutor, trainer. She doesn't leave a stone unturned, and she's always, she's 80 now, Carol, but
Wow.
she absolutely loves St Just In Roseland. Carol has been to St Just In Roseland, where the Magi book was founded. She's been there a number of times. Her review on Amazon about the Sacred Order of the Magi book is just, astounding. And Carol went on to have a Sacred Order of the Magi symbol tattoo on her arm.
Wow. There's
Say
an endorsement.
she had that tattoo on her arm, the Magi symbol, when she was about 75, to celebrate her 50th wedding anniversary. And what she does, you see, is whenever she's training or whether she gives lectures, wherever she goes, even when she opens the door, people will say, oh, because they don't expect her to have this big tattoo of the Magi symbol. And then she starts telling everybody about the book.
Wow, what
It's
a
an incredible
beautiful
book.
advert, an endorsement, as I say, that's just
I haven't got a
amazing.
tattoo.
We'll all be rushing out to get tattoos now, Diane, after this.
Not yet. I haven't got a tattoo.
So you mentioned the Roseland down in
Yeah.
Cornwall there. That's really well, the story can't be without that beautiful place being woven into the story, because it's so important to the story, that location. And was it the Zimbabwe healing that led you in that direction, or was it something else?
It was. I've always been a seeker and a searcher. I think that's just one of my, qualities, my sort of part of my personality. And I, in the mid 2000s, I decided to research into whether Jesus had ever come to England. And now, as I say, I think it's something that's quite accepted, but it wasn't at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we live about 20 minutes outside of London, we used to coincide this with holidays to Cornwall, which is such a beautiful county anyway, the Duchy of Cornwall. And so during those years, we visited St Michael's Mount, Tintagel, various places, and you know, I sort of my research into whether Jesus had been there was really whether I felt that he'd been there or not, and I just didn't feel that. I just knew he hadn't been. So that was, I was aligned to Zimbabwe Healing in February 2010. I'd read the article the previous October, in Kindred Spirit magazine, and it was speaking about Zimbabwe Healing, which equates to the path of truth. And I sometimes think, is it the path of truth for the individual, or the path of truth, you know, unfolding in the world? And this Zimbabwe vibration was brought to the planet originally by the prophet Enoch, who, as most of us, or many of us will know, evolved into the Archangel Metatron, who is the archangel for these ascension times. And then it was withdrawn. It says due to abuse. Nothing more was said, so it was withdrawn. But it was the vibration that was used by the therapeuti, who were the healers in the Essene sect at the time of Yeshua, Jesus. So it had obviously been reintroduced to the planet, and then it was withdrawn again. No explanation as to why. But in the year 2000, Carolyn Schneider, who was a lady who lived in Seattle in the article, she was attending seminars, sessions, spiritual sessions with a friend of hers, Stephen Kirk, who was bringing all this information through about Zimbabwe and the, you know, healing vibration, how powerful it was. So she asked him if he would, if she had permission to collate all the information and take this out in workshops to attune people, and she was prepared to take it globally, which is what she did. And the interesting thing was that in the article it speaks about Stephen Kirk's guide being Balzar. Well, reading the article, you know, that sort of didn't really register with me, but it was afterwards, after the Magi messages started coming through to me, and, you know, obviously it was revealing their unknown story, I thought to myself, well, Balzar is obviously Balthazar. So I contacted Carolyn subsequent to reading the article, and she was coming over to the UK, to Hastings on the south coast in February, and I was attuned to Zimbabwe Healing during that weekend. But Carolyn also led us in meditation to meet our guide, which is something I'd never done, you know, not in all the things that I'd done up until that point. I'd never worked with a guide. So that really interested me and intrigued me. And during that weekend, I was told that Merlin was my guide. And initially, I thought, I can't believe this. I don't know why, but I just could not, you know, get my head around it until I asked him 3 times in the meditation to confirm it was Merlin. And 3 times I felt a thumb being pressed into the palm of my left hand. So the rest of that year, year really was devoted to Merlin messages, Merlin evenings that I led and spoke about him, the messages that he was bringing through. And then subsequent or separate to the Merlin, months, I commissioned a painting of him based on one of my messages as well, something I'd never done in my life. Subsequent to that, we booked one of our holidays to Cornwall, and this was the time that we went to St Mawes in the Roseland Peninsula. And as I said to you, the Roseland is named because raw is the Cornish word for jutting out point, peninsula. So that was the origins of Roseland. But to me, I just thought, this is the Rose Line.
Yeah.
This is giving me some, clue into where Jesus was. And so, I didn't equate it at the time to Zimbabwe. It was just something that we were always doing annually, going to Cornwall. So we'd booked this holiday in St Mawes. And as you know, when people say to you, where are you going on holiday? You tell them, they say, oh, if you're going there, you must go to St Just In Roseland. It's the most beautiful church in England. Oh my God, that's a bit of a statement. And anyway, on the first day of that week, we went to St Just In Roseland, which is only 10 minutes drive inland from St Mawes, which is a beautiful fishing village. And parked the car, walked down, sort of a slight hill, walked down through the beautiful churchyard. Oh my goodness. And came to the church, which was nestling on the banks of the River Percule, which leads into River Fowl and ultimately over to Falmouth. And I just knew within every fibre of my being that Jesus had been there. I just knew that he had been there. And I'm looking at the painting of it now on my wall. But the church is beautiful, really, really beautiful. I mean, we've been witnessed people have weddings there, so blessed. And then to the right, you walk through an archway and that's where the sacred waters of St just bubble out from a sacred well that's been there thousands of years ago. And when Joseph of Arimathea and Yeshua would have rowed up the river Percule, they would have drunk from those pure waters after having been at sea for so long.
Goosebumps again, Dianne.
It's just so much that I could tell you, that I've now discovered. But this was all so new to me. I didn't, anticipate any of this. So then we were approaching the 1010 energies, which were, amazing times. 10th of October 2010, and a friend of mine was going to Tintagel to celebrate those energies, and she said, are you going? So I said, why don't you come? I said, I've only just come back, and it's about 5 or 6 hour journey. So anyway, lo and behold, and I still can't believe it, even really to this day, we were there. And I remember standing on a hill, looking into Merlin's cave, the amazing crashing waters of the Atlantic, crashing into the mouth of Merlin's cave. And it was a beautiful day. It was like a summer day. Blue skies, heat on my shoulders. And I kept looking at this amazing sea and thinking of Merlin and think, I can't believe I'm here.
You're just really can't. All of us there as well. I'm absolutely with you there.
just
It's such a
couldn't
beautiful
believe
picture.
it.
Wow.
And then 6 weeks later, on one Saturday morning, this statement came through my head. There is a band of brothers called the Magi. And it just kept repeating in my mind until I went to my PC to see if there would be further information. And that's when the first message from Melchior of the Magi came through, who originated from Cornwall. I mean,
Wow. And this is the difference between gnosis and knowledge, because that gnosis is your deep, deep, deep knowing. And so you're being reactivated, it sounds like, when you're placing yourself in certain places and following your heart and completely in that place of trust and faith. It's like you're getting reactivated downloads. It's like these awakenings. And then deeper you go on the journey. You're like, okay, I'm now hearing a sentence here. Let's go and investigate this. This is how my life goes as well, Dianne. It's like I'll get information that means
I
nothing
know.
to me, can be completely random, or I'll get a vision. And then it leads you on this incredible journey, doesn't it? So where then did this lead? So Melchior, as we know, was that first Magi that had got in contact with you in this way. Where did that
He's
then lead?
Well, what this story, these 21 messages from Melchior reveal, is that contrary to what we've been told in the Bible, the few short messages in St Matthew's Gospel about the three wise men, these amazing regal figures, learned men, wise men, alchemists, astrologers, philosophers, had come from the East, travelled thousands of miles over the, treacherous terrain, following the star to find the infant Messiah. And having done so, I mean, the chapter in the book, the message in the book about how they meet Jesus is just, oh gosh, it's so poignantly emotional. It's just beautiful. And I remember they stood outside the cave because these men come to life. They're not these three wise men. They are men that you can relate to, and they're also different and come from, different countries. And they stood outside after this journey to find this baby Messiah, waiting for permission from Joseph the father, who was the most amazing man, Joseph. And I remember getting to that point of the messages coming through, thinking, I need to be in the best, purest state myself. I just can't, channel the rest of this message without being in a pure state of grace, really. And I arranged to undergo a healing session so that I was in the best possible place that I felt I could be. And I felt that I was stood outside the cave with Balthasar, Caspar, Melchior before we were given permission to enter and to meet Mary and the baby. And so this is what these messages reveal, that contrary to the Bible story, that the Magi, having travelled thousands of miles to find this baby, a few days later, having been warned in a dream of Herod's nefarious intentions to all the babies in the community, just packed up and left.
Yeah, here's some gifts. We're off now because Herod's a
Yeah,
dodgy bloke, so we'll
yeah,
just skedaddle now. Don't think so, eh?
we've given you the gifts, and of course that why would they? They wouldn't.
Exactly.
So what they did, and they'd become so close to one another anyway, they'd formed a sacred order of the Magi, 3 of them. What they did, they discarded their regal clothes where people thought that they were kings. They took on the clothes of the Essene community wearing white, and they went undercover to become Jesus's security, service, mentors, tutor, guides. They were there, and they loved him, and they loved his family and friends, and they loved one another. They'd created this amazing bond between themselves.
Wow.
So
how amazing. And I call goosebumps my truth bumps, and I keep goosebumping through this, Dianne. So beautiful. So this book, your incredible book called The Sacred Order of the Magi, is it written from Melchior's perspective then?
It is, yeah.
And so Melchior, can you tell us a little bit more about Melchior and what he has brought through for, humanity to know?
When the first message came through, obviously it's Melchior, as an older man as he was, in later life, and from this high perspective of, being such a beautiful ascended being. But when he first starts out in the actual revealing of the story, because I didn't know that there was going to be more messages, what I did from that first message, which is absolutely beautiful, speaks about, an introduction, I suppose, to him, and perhaps what he was going to speak about later, but I didn't know this. And he also introduces the diamond light grid, which we all have, and this is our connection to the universe. It's something that we all is unique to us all. It's our diamond light grid, it's our DNA, and this is how we interact with the rest of humanity, because we are all as one. And then the diamond light grid evolves into the planet, around the planet, out through the universe and galaxies, stars, to the divine intelligence, and then spirals all the way back again. And this is what he explained in the book, which, obviously I didn't know at that time either. But he's a very young, humble, inexperienced young man who's living, but very learned as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone on the journey. But the first chapter, after chapter 2, I suppose, is his journey on a boat to embark upon following the star. Because in the first chapter, he speaks about the star enveloping him and how he knows he's got to follow this star. So contrary to what everybody else said to him, he had to follow the star. But he is a very it's difficult to explain. He's very naive initially and very otherworldly, whereas when he meets up with Balthazar and Caspar, Balthazar is this sort of solemn, stern young man who came from Persia. He was Zoroastrian, and he had men with him. He had a troop of men with him. He was very wealthy. Caspar is the joker. He's the man who can interact and, makes light of everything. So they're very, very different beings. And but Melchior, many people can relate to Melchior, because I suppose it's the journey he takes you on and how he responds to things. He absolutely adored Jesus, and he was, absolutely devastated when they had to leave him at the flight into Egypt. And they're just amazing beings who come to life, you know. And so what happened with that first message when it came through, I copied it and sent it in a Christmas card to just a handful of spiritual friends. And it's my very close friend Debbie, who I met on the Louise Hay training, who's still my best friend after all these years. It was she who said to me, you can't just let this, you know, this can't just be just for a few of us.
No,
The
it's too big. It's got to be
it's
shared and known.
It's too beautiful. It's too unknown a story. You've got to.
Yeah.
So I self-published the book. You know, I didn't.
Wow.
I did try to. I did contact Hay House, and but anyway, that's what I did. Self-published.
Amazing. And it's now going to be made into a movie, Dianne, which is just, that's just like, wow.
Oh my God, what a journey
wow.
that's been. Well, it's all been an amazing journey, but the movie journey has just been incredible. So as I say, I'm writing the story of how the book came to be, and you know, also now the 10-year journey of the film. And what happened was that several months after the book was completed in May 2013, so it had been about April, I think, 2014, I received this message that I was to make a film based on the characters in the book, but not of them 2,000 years ago. This was to be a non-religious storyline. It had to entertain, enlighten, and inspire. It had to be set in the present day. They are now time-traveling superheroes, so that this storyline would appeal to everybody, whether you are, you know, on the spiritual path or you're not, because it's, and when you read the Magi book, not only is it this most beautiful story that unfolds, and the obviously the diamond light grid meditations that accompany each chapter, there's this beautiful Magi vibration of peace and love and diamond light and service, you know. That's what they were about, service to Yeshua and humanity and preserving his mission. That's what they knew they had to do. And so this is what the film is about, but they're now time-traveling superheroes, and it's a fantastic script. I wrote the original storyline, much against my will. I knew that wasn't for me, but anyway, the situation were, you know, that I had to write this storyline, and I did to the best of my ability. But thank God I now have this fabulous friend, Joanna Boyle, who is a scriptwriter, beautiful spiritual lady, and she has written the drafts for the script. And I remember when I met her and told her that, you know, I don't have the funds to make a film because this film is going to be a blockbuster. It's set in the present day, and, you know, we need to engage the whole world. I don't have the funds to do this, so would it be okay, you know, if she takes a cut of the, you know, however this works out in time? Thank God she agreed. And I remember saying to her, Jo, I never asked you to write any more than one draft of the script, and here we are now, 6 years later, and we're on draft 6. There have been many people who have come and gone during this journey. I call it the Magi cosmic chessboard, because people come and then they go. I have been extremely grateful to each and every one of them, because even if they're not here now, they've shown their eagerness at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 years ago, in the most humorous of circumstances, and I'll tell you another time because it's quite a convoluted story really, but very, very light and very humorous. I eventually met the executive producer, Bridget Hill. And so now there's now 3 of us, 3 Magi sisters, 3 Magi ladies, Joanna Boyle and scriptwriter, Bridget Hill, the executive producer, who has got the most amazing contacts in the film world, and myself, the visionary, I suppose. It's been there from day one.
I love that you call yourselves the Magi sisters as well. It's just so beautiful.
They're amazing women. I'm just so blessed and grateful. And because you can't do this on your own.
No.
You know, you need
need
people to sometimes just say to you, yeah, it's all right, keep going.
Yeah. Well, here's your divine team. You're here now.
I know. And
oh, it's amazing. Amazing. So how far off do you think this amazing movie is going to be out in cinemas, available on, Netflix, wherever it's going to be available? Do you think another couple of years in the making?
Probably, yeah, the next step, I would say, because we are ready. The script is just incredible. I mean, Joan's just created this amazing script. It's set in London and Las Vegas.
Wow.
Wow. With the most fantastic final scene. Oh, I didn't say, did I? That one scene, when I received the message, one scene had to be resonant of the Beatles walking across the crossing outside the Abbey Road studios.
Wow.
So that's in the script as well.
And what is the significance of that?
I don't know.
Oh,
not really, I don't. Sometimes I think I do. And then another time I think, I don't know. But you know, Kelly, the very, very first channeled message that I ever wrote, and that was after attending a 4-hour workshop with Doreen Virtue, would you believe? So she wasn't as famous as she did become. And it was the big Mind, Body, Spirit exhibition in London. And Debbie and I, my close friend, had attended this 4-hour workshop with Doreen. It was beautiful. And I've always, for Doreen, I know she's gone on her own path now, probably, away from the spiritual path, but she always sort of insisted into you to just say, whatever you receive, say it, do it, write it. Whatever's coming through, don't question it. And I've always thought, I've always remembered that. Anyway, the very first thing that I ever did was a small piece, and it was about the golden ones. And it said they would never know the impact that they had on the world. And during this piece of channeled writing, there's nothing that says it's about the Beatles, but I just knew it was.
Wow.
So I just knew it was attributed to them, the golden ones.
Really
so I don't know whether there's I was a big Beatles fan. I wouldn't have brought them into the major film.
Well, I'll tell you,
the
reason I'm asking was because I share a birthday with John Lennon. So my birthday is
yes, you do, yeah.
And I had a vision many, many years ago, and one of these castles in the sky. I hope it does ground into reality at some point. But I've had this passion. I know exactly where it would be and everything, to have a healing centre. And I kept getting visions of what it would look like. And it was almost like educational healing. It was not just for children, but for adults as well. And I was to call it the White Feather Foundation. Now, John Lennon's son. I think it's Julian. I would have to go and double check
It
again.
is Julian.
Well, he has the white, because I thought I better look that up, because if somebody else has got that name, I can't use it. Sure enough, John Lennon's son has the White Feather Foundation. I thought, oh, and that was a few years after I had first got that message. And so here is, when you were talking about the white feather earlier, their calling card, this is something that I believe to be true now, is that there's a lot of, you know, I feel in every field, but also in the spiritual community as well, where people are still sometimes caught up in competition, and they say, you know, oh, you can't say this, this was my idea, you can't be doing that, that's using my words. I just really can't be bothered with any of that. Because what I truly believe is, coming back to what you were saying earlier about we are all connected through this diamond light grid. Yeah, so however we visualize that crystalline grid, we're all connected through the heart to source, to that higher, super conscious, living intelligence, that super conscious reality. We're all connected to that. And you know, we will all get messages dropped into us. If you ignore the sign and you don't act on that, if you don't take the courage, the action of your heart to step in, well, it's gone to someone else, you know, because the superconscious wants to anchor that in. It needs to come in to the crystalline grid. It needs to be anchored in. And this is the thing that I really want everybody to remember, is that we are all special. We all carry these incredible gifts within our own DNA. But the difference is that not everybody steps in to take the heart-aligned action. Not everybody takes that moment to recognize the sign and the synchronicity. Because if you miss it, it's going to someone else. Somebody else will be activated to take that mission forward, because that mission needs to be realized. And so I just want to really, really honor you, Dianne, for having, you know, you are just this incredible living example of living from the heart and taking that heart-aligned action, taking the courage to follow your gnosis, to follow, gosh, I'm getting these signs, I'm getting these words. I never planned to write a book. I have to write a book. This is what's to be bit about. What an incredible example to all of us tuning in, including me, to listen and to feel the truth in your words. Yeah, you talked about that truth as well, following your truth. This is the most incredible example. And I know that this conversation was activating me, and it's reminding me of the internal limitless power within all of us, because we are connected to source.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just love how you've shared all of this, because look where it's led. There's going to be this incredible blockbuster movie. You know,
I know.
things. I'm going to make a blockbuster movie today. Maybe some people do, I don't know. But it's you talked about the mission weavers, yeah, and how they have had this role in taking, you know, the mission to the ones that are ready, the ones that are ready to step in, to say, okay, here I am. I'm going to do this. I'm going to embody these truths. I'm going to be a living example of this. So you're bringing such honor to these incredible souls and such remembrance to them. What an incredible gift to put out into the world.
I think one of the things that, I mean, it is. I mean, to me, you know, I think, my gosh, what an amazing journey. But I think one of the things within me is I've always wanted to share with other people. I wanted other people to fulfill their potential and their love and their light and whatever they're guided to do. And when you speak about the mission weavers, I must tell you this, such a funny story, how I met Bridget, the executive producer. Over the years, I've become Facebook friends with many people through the book. And one of them was this lady. She's a very good friend now. Never met these people, But this lady was, she was from North London, and she used to speak about having her offering. She was the organizer of the local holistic therapist, aromatherapist, massage, reflexology. And they all used to gather at this community hall on an allotment site in North London. And I used to think that was amazing. I thought, oh my goodness, this is just so, perfect, beautiful. Anyway, this particular New Year's Eve 2021, somebody had sent me the beautiful photograph of St Just In Roseland taking at dusk on New Year's Eve. And oh my goodness, Kelly, it was just stunningly beautiful. So there's the church and there's a few headstones. The tide, the River Merlin tide, was high behind the church, and there was just one little light in the church, in the entrance hall of the church, and you could almost touch the healing that was emanating from this picture. It was just so powerful. So Tracy, the allotment lady, she had posted that she had been very, very poorly with COVID, but she was hoping to resume her, treatments at the allotment hall in January, and she would keep everybody posted. So I was so touched by this, and I was so, concerned that she'd been so poorly. I sent her this photograph of the church, and I said to her, this is the church from St Just In Roseland, and I'm sure you can sense the healing from this photograph. So she came back and she said, thank you very much. I've never read your book.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, there's a beautiful introduction to your work then. Sending her a wee calling card. She maybe needed it.
She's never read it since. But she said to me, but thank you so much. Would you like to join my healing group? So we have this WhatsApp healing group that I now have joined. And through that healing group, that's where I met Bridget, who's also part of the healing group.
What a magical, magical story.
I've never forgotten that. It's hilarious.
That's absolutely brilliant. Oh my goodness. That's when we cannot argue with what we've just spoken about. These beautiful mission weavers,
But 6 months later, you see, I had this really personal connection with Bridget, which has led to this beautiful, fabulous, most powerful connection. And she's just amazing.
Oh, that's just so wonderful. What an amazing example again to finish this wonderful conversation on. I really don't want to go, Dianne, because I just love being in your energy. And this story has been so beautiful. And I want to finish off just by saying to everybody to go and buy your book, The Sacred Order of the Magi. So what I'll do is I'll pop a link down below this episode, all your links, so that people can find you, people can easily purchase the book. It's a beautiful book. It's a simple read as well. It's just, oh, it's gorgeous. I really must find my copy so I can finish it.
At least you've got a copy.
I do. I might have to order another one though. I am so grateful for you coming on today, Dianne, and being so generous with your time.
Kelly. It's been so beautiful, and I just want to. That's the essence of the film, is for this major vibration to flow out to the world to help us move into the age of Aquarius. That we hold the love and the peace and the joy.
Yeah.
And share it with others.
Yeah.
So thank you for this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody for tuning in today as well, and watching and listening. And I wish you all a beautiful day. Thank you so much again, Dianne.
Thank you, Kelly. God bless. Bye.